College 101 peeps. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about accepting personal responsibility. And this is one where you're probably like, oh, I got it, no big deal. And this is probably one of the areas that we have the hardest time with. So the reason why we talk about this is because not accepting personal responsibility is sometimes one of those things that will hold us back and cause us to be struggling students when we don't realize it, okay? So it's one of those things that I think is really important to think about. How do we adopt a creator mindset? And that's really a collection of beliefs and attitudes. It affects how we see situations and it influences our choices. And I just had a friend post something on Facebook this morning, in fact, about how, and she's a former student of mine, and how she figured out that she's been anxious and uptight and blaming everybody, not happy with her life, lots of things going wrong. And it's primarily because she's not accepting responsibility. She'd rather believe that it's somebody else's fault for her to be in the situation she's in. And she's like, if you feel like your life isn't going right and it sucks, it's because it does suck, and it's because of your attitude, and you need to change the attitude. And I know there's lots of things that go on in life that may or may not affect that, and maybe sometimes out of your control. And we're going to talk about kind of that difference. So the book talks about something called a victim mindset and a creator mindset. And a victim, I'm not talking in the sense of victim of a crime, victim in an accident. That's not really what I'm talking about. In this case, it's when we see ourselves as the victim of our circumstances, okay? And when we take that victim mindset, that's really keeping us from seeing choices that might be out there because we're so concerned about the situation we're in that we can't, and what was done to us, that we can't see the possibility. And a creator mindset really causes people to see all the options, choose wisely, and take effective actions. And so I'm probably going to share that Facebook post, not from my friend, but it was an article that she read that is related to kind of where she came from. And it's just a blog, somebody kind of dumping their feelings out in the open about, how they think, but it's very much like this, and I thought it was pretty relevant. I also have another friend that's coming with me to join me at CrossFit, but I see that she's really concerned about finishing last, and so she's so focused on finishing last and not finishing last and being worried about finishing last that she's not thinking about the benefit that she's getting while she's there. And so I think sometimes when we get into that victim mindset and we feel like, everything is bad, we're not looking at all of the possibilities and the potential that's out there. And I think we do that without realizing it. And while accepting responsibility is like, yes, I accept responsibility all the time, I can honestly say that from my perspective, I have pity parties sometimes, and I just want to blame everyone, and it happens. And so we all get in that frame of mind, and it's really about acknowledging when we're there and getting ourselves out of it so we can be more successful in everything that we do. So this is the picture that I really wanted to share about this that I think is most important. So something happens right in life, we fail a test, we lose a job, whatever it might be. That's the stimulus in this chart, okay? And then we have a choice, right? We can get upset about it. I failed a test, I'm upset. If I'm a victim, I'm probably saying, but the teacher didn't explain it to me the way I needed it to be. This class is so hard. I don't know why I even took it. I'm really not good at math, so that's probably why I didn't do so well. Or I didn't sleep really well last night, and I do this for working out all the time, by the way, making excuses before I do the workout. Oh yeah, well, I didn't practice that movement, or, I didn't get enough sleep, or I didn't eat before I came in, or whatever, or I ate before I came in. I make tons of excuses sometimes. So making excuses and then repeating behavior. What happens though, we seldom receive and achieve the goals that we want because we're so busy making excuses and repeating old behaviors that we never get out of that vicious cycle. We stay in that cycle of that victim mentality of, well, this is why. Like, we're trying to give ourselves a reason to fail, or a reason why we fail. The creator mindset though, let's say fail the test. wow, I didn't do as good as I thought I would do. I really thought this was going to be easier. What can I do differently? Okay, so that's a choice. So now I'm going to think about what I can do differently. So maybe I can go in and talk to the teacher. Maybe I can go to the tutoring lab. Maybe I can meet with a friend of mine that was really good at this class and she can help me understand what I'm doing wrong, or whatever that might be. The person that does that often achieves their goals. Let's say you put on 10 pounds. Oh, I can't believe I'm so fat. What am I going to do? Victim mindset. Well, that's because everybody always brings food to work that's so terrible for me to eat. And my husband won't eat anything healthy, so I have to make all this bad food for the family because that's all that he'll eat. Um, well, I have a slow metabolism, so that's why I'm gaining weight, or I bet I have a thyroid problem, whatever. And, sometimes we do have those things, and there's a medical reason and a medical explanation. But if it's something that's like always happening, that behavior is always happening, and we're always gaining 10 pounds, and we're always up, and we're always unhappy about our lot in life, when we get into that spot, that's when we really need to encourage ourselves to think about things a little bit differently. The act of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity, right? So you got to do something new to make that happen. And I think that this is just one of the most important things that I get out of this book is that responsibility and choice, and the indicators when you know you're not doing it is blaming, complaining, and excusing. And we do it every day. We all do it. No matter how positive we think we are, there's a point where we fall into that routine of complaining or making excuses or blaming. And we just need to acknowledge it so that we can be more productive in life. And so that is kind of the reason for that. So the next piece that I really want to focus on is this idea of 3 different parts of our brain, okay, which is totally related to this victim mind talk and mind mentality. So we have this self-talk, and I was once part of a training session where we had to wear a rubber band, and every time we had a negative thought about ourselves, we had to actually snap the rubber band. And after a week of doing that, I had welts on my wrist because I am my worst enemy, right? I'm very critical of myself. I'm constantly judging myself. And that's what my inner voice is doing. I'm not good enough. Why am I here? I have no business to be here, right? That inner critic is always there doing that. And they're putting yourself down. They're like it's almost like being humble, but like on overdrive. Like it's not just being humble, like, oh, this isn't, like I'm not as good as like the best person, but I'm doing the best I can, whatever. It's not like good humility. It's really like, I stink and I'm never going to get any better. That's really that inner critic. The inner defender is really trying to protect your mind from your inner critic, I think. So your inner defender is judging others. So instead of blaming yourself, the inner defender is blaming others. And there's going to be a journal related to this. So you're going to have to kind of think about how that's different. But instead of saying, I'm no good, they're no good, right? So it's kind of turning it outward. So instead of the inner critic being guided and focused on destroying you internally, the inner defender is really about destroying everybody else and saying that it's their fault. So when you blame other people, that's that inner defender coming out. Both of those areas of our brain, the inner critic and the inner defender, are both working in that victim mentality. Okay. And so we really want to use our inner guide as that creator mindset. It's the voice that's like, that might be true. You might not be very good at math, but I bet you can get better if you do X, right? It's impartial. It's telling us that this is really the way it is, but here's what maybe you can do to improve that. Or maybe, you are struggling with this and there might be a number of reasons for it, but maybe it's just not a fit for you. Maybe you should try to do something different. And so it's impartial. It's not hung on to those belief structures that we've had forever or something somebody told us a long time ago. It's impartial, and it's really looking at the situation and not judging anything, but how do you make it better, okay? And knowing that by blaming or criticizing yourself, you're not getting any better by it, right? And we all do it. Some of us do it more than others, but I think this is a source of anxiety for a lot of people. the more we beat ourselves up, the more anxious we get. And I think we need to think about, like, who's saying those things? Is it us or is it other people? If we're hearing things from other people, maybe we need to change our group that we're around, right? But if we're hearing it because of something that, a belief that we've written in our mind, and we really believe it, I think we need to look at how do we shatter that and make that a little bit different. All right. So some examples of the language of responsibility. I'm terrible in this subject. Well, I find this course challenging, so I'll start a study group. So there's ways to change how you think about things. And I did not mean to do that. Go that fast. And so you can rewrite it. I find it difficult to pay attention in class, so I'm going to challenge myself to take at least one page of notes. You're taking ownership, you're making a plan, you're taking action. That's that creator mindset, okay? Not blaming somebody else because they're boring or the topic's not interesting or that you're terrible at it, right? You're changing it a little bit, okay? And then the next piece is making wise decisions. And that's really looking at an issue that you might have and how do you talk through it and how do you make those decisions better? And this is the wise choice process. So what's my present situation? How would I like it to be? What are my possible choices? What's the likely outcome of each? And which choice will I commit to doing? And then how are you going to evaluate if that plan is really working? This is a great thing. There's a journal that you're going to be working on this week where you're going to look at a present situation issue that you're kind of noodling and thinking over and contemplating. And this is going to really talk about how would you like it to be? How would you like that situation to be in the end? If everything worked out the way you wanted, what would it look like? And so what are your choices to get there? And what's the likely outcome of each one? And I think by talking through that, that will really help you for sure. Okay? So that's really this chapter in a nutshell. I really think this issue of stinking thinking is pretty terrible to ourselves, and we all do it. So don't beat yourself up that you do it. It's really how do you change that to reduce some of that anxiety. We're a very anxious nation lately about all different things. And so many people talk about anxiety and having anxiety. And I think a lot of it is caused by how we're thinking about things and whether they're rational or irrational thoughts. And we need to really work on building that strong inner guide. So hopefully this is one of the things that you will get the most out of this course. Is really understanding where you can make a change. And when we get to the next chapter, I'll tell you a little bit about some of the things that I've been going through over the last, 10 years or so, and changes in my life. And so I'll talk about how I set goals and what I do to really accept responsibility and make changes. And I see people do it and not do it all the time. But I will include that blog link. You might find that interesting because it's very much related to this chapter as well. So I hope that helps you with the content a little bit. And if you need anything else, give me a shout.